Welcome, welcome. My name is Dr. Jeremy Thornton, and this is the weekly drop where we're going to share a little bit of information about all things turmeric and curcumin. We are going to then share about a new exciting technology, which we call BioMS. And I'm going to hop into doing a little screen share with everybody. This information is for educational purposes, right? We're not making diagnoses. We're not curing anybody. We're not suggesting that anybody do anything different than what they're currently doing as far as recommendations through their health practitioner. And certainly in any time you start a new supplement, it's a great idea to go over that with your health team, right? It all starts with turmeric. This is one of the foundational herbs in both traditional Chinese medicine and in Ayurvedic medicine. Ancient languages have called it Ushadi, which is the herb above all others, and Jayanti, which is victorious over diseases. So it's traditionally been used as a spice, as a dye, which you attest to if you've ever gotten that on your clothes, right? And of course, for health purposes. Really the star of the show, if we're talking about turmeric, they've found is curcumin. So curcumin is a component, one of many different components of turmeric root. It's a polyphenol that's actually in the ginger family. One thing I want you to remember, because we're going to talk briefly about what I call the hidden secret of turmeric and curcumin, is that curcumin and turmeric are both lipophilic, meaning it loves fat. It dissolves in fat. It does not dissolve in water. So they call it hydrophobic, meaning fear of water. And that's interesting component about curcumin, especially when we're going to be talking about bioavailability. So the exciting part is if you just search curcumin through PubMed, this is a fairly recent search. There was over 20,000 articles, right, research papers on curcumin by itself. And so that's a lot of research, a single ingredient, right, on a single herb. And so I'd also just challenge you to go into PubMed and then type curcumin and about any health condition that you can think of. And I would be utterly shocked if you can find something that we don't have evidence that curcumin can impact in some form or fashion. And so that's a lot of good information that the research has already been done on curcumin. And so some of the basic things that we know about curcumin fall into these categories. So what it's most famous for, of course, is that curcumin is an anti-inflammatory agent, right? But it is much, much more than just that. It has antioxidant activity. It has anti-cancer benefits. It has neuroprotective benefits. I just recently heard an amazing story about what curcumin has done for someone that has Parkinson's, right? Which is a neurodegenerative condition, right? So it's things like Alzheimer's disease. We have evidence about how curcumin can impact neurodegenerative conditions. Hepatoprotective, meaning liver diseases, cardiovascular health, anti-diabetic effects, as well as immune regulation. And being in practice for over 24 years now, I primarily work with autoimmune disease. And so the exciting thing about curcumin to me is that, a lot of herbs can boost the immune system. And sometimes that's what folks might need. If you're dealing with autoimmune disease, you don't want to boost the immune system, right? Because that could increase the immune system attack on you. And so we have to be careful. People with autoimmune disease have to be careful with not only medications, but with natural medications and herbal remedies, because a lot of things could potentially make them worse. The interesting thing about curcumin, not only does it attack the inflammation that comes with autoimmune disease, but it also balances and calms an overactive immune system. And it supports and uplifts an underactive immune system. So pretty special along those lines. As we dig into some of the research, I won't bore you too much. We'll just hit some high points here tonight. Each one of these little categories here, each one of these little circles is an inflammatory pathway that's inhibited by curcumin. So this is a lot of different inflammatory pathways, and these are all involved in all kinds of different chronic degenerative conditions, things from autoimmune diseases to cancer to arthritises. And just to give you an idea of how exciting this is, if you look at something like ibuprofen, a lot of people think, well, curcumin is an anti-inflammatory, kind of like ibuprofen. Well, guess how many inflammatory pathways that ibuprofen inhibits? It's a COX-2 inhibitor. It inhibits this pathway here. Okay. Nothing else that we know of can impact inflammation in this many different ways. So if we look at the volumes of research in different conditions, different health areas, well, we could break it up into these different categories. We won't talk about each and every condition, but we can see at the top here, we have liver diseases and we have lung diseases and skin, neurodegenerative, inflammatory diseases, infectious diseases, endocrine disorders, heart disease, skeletal diseases, and cancers. And this is just where a majority of the research currently lies in these various health conditions as related to curcumin. So it's some pretty exciting stuff, but there's always got to be a catch, right? When we hear about miraculous things, we always think, well, there's got to be a catch. Something couldn't be this good, or I would have already known about it, right? And the reason is like we alluded to earlier, is due to bioavailability. And that's what I call the hidden secret of curcumin and turmeric, is it's very poor, very, very poor bioavailability. And what that means is when something's bioavailable, when you take it by mouth, right? When you take a capsule, for example, of something, it's digested well, it gets through the intestinal lining, it gets past the liver, it gets into the bloodstream, it gets to the cells and the tissues and the organs and the brain and all of those things that we want affected by that substance. That's bioavailable. And so curcumin and turmeric are exactly the opposite of that. They're not bioavailable. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So one of the shocking things is how much curcumin, if you take it by mouth, is actually ever absorbed at the intestinal level, and that is less than 10%. Pretty shocking, right? If we're talking about turmeric, right? So turmeric is only about 2 to 6% curcumin, okay? And the rest is other stuff. And so if we were wanting to get those benefits of curcumin and we're taking 500 milligrams of turmeric, we might get a milligram of curcumin into the bloodstream. Okay, and we can see where a majority of that ends up right here. Okay, makes sense. And there's lots of information. If you do go to PubMed and search curcumin, one thing you're going to see over and over and over and over and over again is this issue of bioavailability. So, all of the scientific research early on, they found out in the lab that curcumin had these amazing healing qualities, that it could treat various cancers, that it could impact inflammatory mediators and these inflammatory chemicals and cytokines. They found that it could do all of these cool things in the lab, right? And then as they tried to say, well, we know it can do this, let's use this in human studies, right? And so they, of course, then tried to mimic the same thing they saw in the lab in humans. And guess what happened? Mostly nothing happened, right? Very little things happened. In fact, oftentimes they were frustrated because they couldn't even detect curcumin in the bloodstream, even after giving hefty amounts orally to the study participants. And so this has been a struggle as long as we've known the benefits of curcumin and turmeric, is figuring out, can we get it absorbed in the body at therapeutic levels? And it's been a struggle. And using it in practice, which I have for probably over 20 of those 24 plus years, literally use dozens of different versions of turmeric and curcumin. And using that with patients would have to use pretty hefty doses, but not only high doses, but would have to use multiple times a day, right? Because as you'll see, the studies show that it's very poor bioavailability, with many studies showing very low or even undetectable concentrations in the blood and extraintestinal tissues. Major reasons are due to its poor absorption, rapid metabolism, chemical instability, and rapid systemic elimination. Okay, so it doesn't absorb well, right? It's broken down rapidly, and it's rapidly excreted from the body, okay? And that is until now, right? And so we're excited to share this new technology. It's called BioMS technology, which has completely changed everything we thought we knew about curcumin and turmeric because of that keyword bioavailability. And this is actually the study that got my attention about 14 months ago. Was a friend shared about a new curcumin. And honestly, I wasn't terribly interested or excited when I first heard about a new curcumin supplement. Of course, using it for a very long time, and thought that I knew about all there was to know about curcumin and turmeric. Boy, was I wrong. So what caught my attention on this study was that this technology was increasing bioavailability by up to 277 times, not percent, times traditional curcumin. And this is what it looks like there on the little bitty liquid bottle, like it on the screen there, and turns a nice golden yellow color when you put it in a liquid. And that is where all of this power lies. And we're going to talk a little bit about that technology and before we move on. So just to comparison purposes, just to give you an idea of what this would take to achieve what this technology can do, to equal 10 drops of this liquid right here, we would have to consume over 17 pounds of turmeric root. And just most people aren't willing to do that, right? So that's just how powerful we're talking about here. When we look at this technology, really, it's more like three technologies, because they first extract the curcumin, that very small percentage of what's in turmeric, right? Then they apply a nanotechnology to those particles, right? And it shrinks those particles down to unimaginably small levels, which increases, of course, absorption, right? And then not only do they have these nanoparticles, but then they wrap these nanoparticles in a micelle structure. And this micelle structure will pretend like the curcumin particle is in here. This micelle structure is easily able to carry that curcumin in the bloodstream, which is mostly what? Water, right? And like we talked about with curcumin and turmeric, it doesn't like water. And so, and they've overcome that by this micelle technology. So just to give an idea what size a nanometer is, if we're talking about particle sizes of this BioMS less than 30 nanometers, a red blood cell is 7,000 nanometers wide. And these are some different structures. A human hair, 100,000 nanometers thick. That's small, guys. That's so tiny. And one of the reasons we're seeing such amazing results with this new technology. Another visual, I'm very visual. It's probably because I'm from Missouri, the show me state, right? So we've got, this slide is showing a 2,000 milligram dose of curcumin orally, right? And this is the concentration in the bloodstream. This is over the time period. And you guys have to look a little closer. Lucian, make sure you got your glasses on there, bud, because you've got to see, this is the peak right here in the curcumin level, right? Ta-da, that's it. Not very exciting, right? And this is, of course, you would guess why scientists have been so frustrated studying and utilizing curcumin in human studies, because it was very challenging to get, one, a therapeutic effect, but even to get it into the bloodstream at levels that could do much, okay? So we hear an awful lot about, well, my curcumin or my turmeric uses black pepper, which solves the bioavailability issue, and not so fast. So if we use that same 2,000 milligram dose of curcumin and we add the black pepper extract, okay, while I do admit this is a little bit more of an exciting peak, right, than this one down here, right? But at 45 minutes, we see this spike of curcumin in the bloodstream, right? But by an hour, look what happens, okay? By 3 hours, look what happens. So what black pepper extract does is it temporarily slows down what they call phase 2 liver detoxification. So by slowing down the liver briefly, they cause a small, short spike in curcumin in the bloodstream, but then it's rapidly, again, metabolized and rapidly excreted. So this is really the most we're achieving is about a 30-minute spike of curcumin in the bloodstream over traditional curcumin. Again, not very exciting. And one of the things that I worry about with black pepper extract used, especially people are using it multiple times a day, a lot of people are on medications, right? A lot of people are on multiple prescription medications. And now we are slowing down their liver detoxification, and sometimes multiple times a day if they're using their curcumin and black pepper extract, right? And that is just, in my opinion, not a good idea, and not a great way to go about it. So that is black pepper extract. So this is what we're seeing with this technology. This is the University of Hohenheim, which is in Germany, where this technology originated. It's a German technology. What's exciting is of course you can't see the curcumin down here. They had to magnify it so big here to be able to see what we're achieving now. But this is in men and women with this BioMS technology, and we're seeing levels in the bloodstream that we've never seen before. No matter how much a person has taken orally, we've never seen levels in the bloodstream up here. Okay, but what's more exciting than the levels we're achieving in the bloodstream is the time that we're achieving those, okay? We remember that traditional curcumin was gone in 2 hours. Black pepper, we might have stretched to 3 hours. But look at this. This is a single dose, 8 hours, 12 hours, 16 hours, 24 hours later, we still have measurable amounts of curcumin in the bloodstream. And that has never been seen before. Nothing even close to this has been seen, especially with curcumin and turmeric, especially due to it being lipophilic and its poor bioavailability, right? And this is why we're seeing just almost hard to believe results in people's health is because all these things we've seen about curcumin and turmeric, we weren't seeing in human trials. Most people weren't seeing in their health utilizing it in traditional methods, right? And many of you might be in that category, but now we are. Now we are able to see those special qualities of curcumin. And, I often say that this is what I had always wished curcumin could be, but never was. But now, of course, this is what we're seeing.